Good day, viewers, and welcome to another OnSide SA soccer show. Paul is unfortunately unavailable as he is racing at Greyville today, but fortunately our regular UK correspondent Stevie Braham in the Fulham studio is available. We will be discussing the 4 knockout games, that's the weekend's games, the last 16 of the World Club competition in America. We'll be going through the American MLS and ending with the Swedish Allsvenskan. Morning, Steve. Did you wake up to watch the Chelsea game this morning?
No, at 2 in the morning. If it was the final last time, it may be, but I just saw the highlights and the goals this morning, about an hour ago.
Yeah, and unfortunately with the heat, the game, especially the last game, they're on at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock our time. I watch the 9 o'clock games with the 3 o'clock. While I tape them, can't wake up to watch them. Steve, the World Club, that we've got down to 4 knockout, last 16 of the knockout stage. Unfortunately for me, both the last 16 and the quarterfinals are played in the same city. So at least there's no advantage for several of the teams traveling either side of the country, which is my opinion is always a farce in America. But the first game up on Saturday is the Brazilian, this will be a feisty affair between Palmeiras and Botafogo. Who do you think's going through?
Yeah, they obviously know each other well, play each other. I think that I've been quite impressed with Botafogo. I think they've done well. Ended up topping the group. So for me, I just think they'd start as favourite. I wouldn't say clear favourites, but for me, I think that they probably just got the edge over Palmeiras.
Yeah, I agree. I just think they've got a little bit more firepower. I think both sides will be defensively well organised, tight in the middle of the park. But as you saw, I was really impressed with Botafogo, especially after the first game against Seattle, where I wasn't really, but they played great against PSG. And my boys who cost me money, Atletico Madrid, while they got beat, they showed a lot of fight. The second game, can't believe I'm saying this, is league group winners Benfica against Chelsea. I watched the game last night with Benfica and Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich started off with the second team, made 7 changes, then they brought Kane and the big hitters on, and how they never equalised, I don't know. But can Chelsea get a result here, Steve?
Yeah, I think they can. I think I watched the game last night as well, and Benfica played very well in the first half. But once Bayern Munich brought on the big names, you just thought it was only a matter of time they would score. But for some sort of poor finishing, some very good defending, Benfica are through. Now, it might actually have suited Chelsea because they could otherwise have been playing Bayern Munich. So, all European game. But I think Chelsea should be favourites. Again, Chelsea rested. I didn't watch it, but I saw that they rested a lot of players. I suspect he will obviously be playing his strongest available 11 next week against Benfica. It should be a good game, but I think Chelsea should be favourites.
All right, Steve. Now looking ahead, because the next round I think is late next week. If Botafogo and Chelsea get to the quarterfinals, who do you fancy to reach the semis?
Yeah, again, look, on paper you'd think Chelsea, but Botafogo have shown that they can handle it. I think the heat is definitely becoming a problem for some of the, which is why they've been rotating because to play a game every 3 or 4 days in the heat, especially when the games are being played in the middle of the afternoon, in like 35 to 40 degrees, they've found it quite challenging. So I think Chelsea should be favourites, but Botafogo I think have surprised a lot of people, and let's see if they get through against Palmeiras.
Yeah, on the other side of the draw on Sunday, the first game up is PSG, Lionel Messi's old team. I've been impressed with their last 2 games, Steve. Didn't fancy them after the first draw, but they've come right. I just think PSG could be a step too far though.
Yeah, I think, again, PSG will play their strongest side. You'd think that they would have more about them than Inter Miami. Inter Miami, I think, have surprised a lot of people.
Yeah.
They played well in their last game, deserved to win. I think, though, that PSG, I think their quality should shine through, and I expect them to win that.
Okay, now, presuming they get through the quarterfinal, the big game so far, and this will be a humdinger. Flamengo, Bayern Munich. Steve, how do you see it going?
Yeah, this will be a good game. I mean, again, Bayern Munich will obviously start with their strongest available team. I think that I think they would be too strong for Flamengo, but Flamengo have played well, and they played very well against Chelsea, although I thought Chelsea were quite poor. I think, again, I think if Bayern Munich take their chances and play their strongest side. I'd expect them to be too strong, but I think that'll be a close game if it happens.
4 o'clock in Miami. Cannot believe they're playing in the heat there again. I was at the World Cup in '94. They were playing at 12 o'clock in Orlando, which is just up the road, which is ridiculous. Steve, presuming PSG and Bayern get through, who you got in the semis?
Now that's going to be a real game. I mean, I think obviously a lot of people fancy PSG because of the fact that they won the Champions League, but Bayern Munich, dark horses for this. I think they've got a strong squad, and if they, they get that ball to Kane in the right place, so we're looking a bit far ahead. But I think that would be a really good game. I look forward to that one.
Of the two, who you got, Bayern or PSG? You think it's their competition to win, Bayern?
Yeah, I think I just wonder about PSG. I think they've done what they needed to do this year. They won the Champions League. I think Bayern have maybe got a bit to prove. They didn't do as well as I think teams thought they might in the thing. So I've been quite impressed with Bayern Munich. I know they slipped up last night, but it was a game they could have won easily in the end.
Yeah, I think they're just planning ahead. That's my suggestion. There are 4 games on tonight, Wednesday and Thursday, and obviously those sides will meet in the balance of the knockout stages. The weekend, bear in mind with the MLS, there is a round of fixtures tonight. So we are discussing all our bets and what we think prior to that. But guys, just bear that in mind. And the first game we kick off with is DC United versus Nashville, Steve. How do you see it going?
Well, DC United are not having a particularly good season. Lost their last couple. Having said that, sort of Nashville, maybe doing a little better than I think people expected. I fancy Nashville. I know it's obviously teams have home advantage, but Nashville, I think in the last 6 or 7, so I think they've got a good chance there, Nashville.
Yeah, DC United have cost me money in the last couple of weeks with our man Benteke, but don't know what he's doing. Hopefully he's back from injury, but of the two sides, I would side with Nashville. Montreal, worst team apparently to the ESP rankings, hosting New York City. Steve, chance for the away team to get a result?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Montreal won their last game, but they're still rock bottom. New York City having a mixed season, but again, I think only 1 defeat in the last 6. So you fancy New York City, I think, to get something.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. New York City in the draw. Steve, New England's home form is superb. Too good for Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. They're not having a great season, New England. They've drawn a lot of games, but at home they are strong. Colorado, pretty disappointing this year, but they've lost their last 3, so I think you'll find that I think New England should be favourites. Yeah,
both sides do play tonight, but New England for me. The team with the best home record in the MLS is the New York Red Bulls. Minnesota on a bad side though, Steve. 12-10 is an inviting price. Do you fancy the home side?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they should be a little bit too strong for them.
Yeah, 12-10, definitely worth an interest. Orlando City versus Cincinnati. Two sides that are going well, Steve. Which way do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, Orlando had that great run early on, lost a couple of games. Cincinnati lost 2 of their last sort of 4, only won sort of 1 of their last 5, but they're still sitting in second place. Again, makes you wonder, home advantage might be. So I think this could be a very close game. Maybe just fancy Orlando, but I think Cincinnati will be hard to beat. Yeah, I think 24-10 definitely looks the right way. On to our second page, and we've got Toronto versus Portland. Both sides, Toronto played tonight, while Portland will be well fresh, should I say. Toronto, Steve, how do you see them doing here? Yeah, I mean, they're really struggling. I mean, they're just a couple of points off the bottom ahead of Montreal. Lost 3 in a row. Again, home advantage, but I think Portland should be too strong. Yeah, I've got to fancy them. Yeah, Toronto lost 7 and 9 in the last 4 at home. It's very strange to see an away side even money in the MLS, but shows how poor Toronto, so don't see Portland losing. Steve, I'm all over Chicago at 9-10 to beat Charlotte. Do you agree? Well, Chicago have had a strange season. I mean, they had that big win against DC recently, away from home. Charlotte not having the best of seasons. They've only drawn one. They either sort of win or lose, but they've lost sort of 4 of their last 6. I think you're right. I think Chicago's shown a little bit of form, won 4 of 6, and at home, I think that they could be too strong for them.
Yeah, they do play Philadelphia at home tonight, while Charlotte are away to Sporting Kansas City. So I'm on Chicago, whatever happens tonight. Dallas, who have disappointed, Steve. They used to have a great home record, but at home recently they haven't won in 4. San Diego going great, won 6 of the last 8. 12-10 short though, but do you see them, how do you see it going now? I don't see San Diego getting beat. Do you?
No. I mean, they're having a good run. I mean, they're second only to the Whitecaps in the Western Conference. So I think that for me, it's either a draw or an away win there for San Diego. Yeah,
I've got to agree there. Houston at home, lost 3 of the last 4 at home. Steve, can they rebound here?
Yeah, I mean, they're not having a good season, as you say. They had a good run before, but lost their last couple. Maybe home advantage, but I think this could be a tight game. Yeah, cancel each other out. Yeah,
St. Louis only won 1 of the last 14 and taken 1 point from the last 7 away from home. I think that's why Houston are odds on, but geez, 2 struggling sides. Sporting Kansas City against a side I can never catch, Real Salt Lake. Steve, how do you see it going?
Well, there's not much to choose between them, in honesty. They're both in the lower half of the division. Sporting lost their last couple. Yep. Real Salt Lake won last time out after sort of 5 or 6 without winning. Maybe just sort of fancy the home side, but I think there's not much in it. Yeah, this has got 1-1 written all over it. 27-10 and 7-1 the score draw. So that's the way I would be looking. On to our final page of the American MLS, and San Jose against a side I can't believe are struggling, the LA Galaxy, Steve. Well, I mean, the LA Galaxy, 1 win all season. It's incredible. They're totally adrift. San Jose, whether or not you think they're not having the best season themselves, but you expect to be too strong for LA Galaxy. You can't, I think they were making excuses early on in the season as to what's gone wrong, but they just can't seem to put it right. So for me, I think the Earthquake should be favourites.
Yeah, 10 away games for LA Galaxy, 3 draws and 7 defeats. Until they turn it round, I'd definitely be opposing them. Seattle aside, that were involved in the World Club. Steve, do you think they'll be tired, or you think they'll rest players for this home game against Austin?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because you'd have thought maybe they'd have given them a bit of a break, because they've obviously had three tough games in a short period. Yeah. And lost 3. There's not much to choose between them and Austin. They're both on 26 points as of today. Yeah. I guess they'll be favourites because they're at home, but that's the only reason why I might fancy them.
Yeah, they did change their artificial pitch to grass. I know when they played at home, I don't know if they're going to dig it up or they're just going to carry on playing on it. But, for me, I can't be taking 6-10. Austin in the draw would be my suggestion. I saw 12-10, but this is a game I've definitely left out of all calculations, purely because you don't know what Seattle are going to do. Columbus, Philadelphia, Steve. I think Philadelphia are going to go close to winning the Eastern Conference. 22-10 in a difficult environment at Columbus. Can they pull the upset?
Yeah, I think they can. Philadelphia having a great season. Top of the Eastern Conference. I think they should be favourites for me.
Yeah, I just can't believe the betting, but obviously home ground advantage, and Columbus are unbeaten in 5 at home. And the other game on Monday morning our time is Los Angeles, who I still think have they finished the World Club, Steve? They play your boys Vancouver.
They have now. They have now finished.
Oh, that's right. They played this morning.
They drew last night. It was a good result for them.
Boca won. That's right. That was a late game this morning.
Having played 3 games, almost back to back, I think it's going to be I think it'll be tough for them. Coming straight back again. Yeah. Yeah, I went for Vancouver to score over 1.5 goals. I like the look of Vancouver. Bar the game where they lost, I think, as a CONCACAF in Mexico. They've had a great season, and I don't know about Los Angeles. Yeah. look, they've lost 2 all season in 17, Vancouver, so you think they should start as favourites.
Yeah, that's the way I've gone. I've gone Vancouver to score over 1.5 goals at 18-10. Steve, the Swedish Elviscan returns this week. Last week we spoke about Norway, and first up, Hammarby against Halmstad. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, Hammarby are having a decent season, and they find themselves second in the table, 3 points behind. You'd expect them to be clear favourites for this.
Yeah, I went Hammarby to win by more than 1 goal. It was like 8.5-10. I'd rather chance that. 1-4 obviously should be in your multiples. Halmstad struggling, lost 3 of the last 5 away from home, but Hammarby all day for me. The next game, Steve, Oster versus Sirius. Don't know how to predict this. If I was going to have a bet, it would be on the draw.
Yeah, I mean, look, neither team are doing well. They're in the bottom few. Oster unbeaten in 4, though, even though they're a point behind Sirius. So maybe on that basis, that might make them slight favourites.
Yeah, I think the draw, 2 inconsistent sides, so the draw is my play there. The other game I fancy, early kickoff Sunday, Steve. I fancy ARK Stockholm to beat IFK Gothenburg. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, AIK are having a really good season, only 1 defeat, and that was recently.
Yeah.
So, having said that, IFK have won 3 in a row, so I think it could be closer than you think, but AIK should certainly be favourites.
Yeah, I always fancy them to win at home. Degerfors versus the biggest club in the world, 247 teams, Steve. Believe it or not, that's what Wikipedia said. Bromma Podgorna. They come up and down every year, Bromma Podgorna. Degerfors up and down. Goals is my suggestion here, Steve, but if you had to back a winner, who would you be on?
Well, Bromma Podgorna are having a really poor season.
I know.
Lost 6 in a row. So, having said that, Degerfors are not doing much better, lost the last 3. I think I'd go with the home side only because, Bromma Podgorna have had such a bad run recently. They concede goals. I think this would be close, but I just think the home advantage slightly.
Yeah, got to agree with you on that. On to our final page, and we've got BK Häcken, who were in Europe last year against Gaze Gothenburg. How do you see it going, Steve?
Yeah, this would be a fairly sort of close game. Häcken are a reasonably good side, but they're not having the best of season.
Yeah.
Gaze are doing well, drawing too many games, but undefeated in 5. So I can see this I can see Gaze getting something in this game.
Yeah, they've only lost 1 of 11 Gaze Gothenburg. I went for goals. I think there'd be a couple of goals. I went over 2.5 goals, both teams to score, yes, at even money. That's my suggestion. Steve, I'm all over Elfsborg to beat IFK Värnamo. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Värnamo haven't won this season.
Yeah.
3 draws in 12 games. Elfsborg, after 5 wins in a row, they lost recently, but I think they should be clear favourites for me.
Yeah, I think even money looks a gift, even though they do play on an artificial pitch, going to a stadium which is grass. Djurgårdens versus Norrköping, Steve. Djurgården 7-10. If you remember, they got to the semi-final. Was it to the Europa League, Conference League?
They did. They lost to Chelsea.
That's right.
Look, they should be favourites. They're not having the best of seasons. They've lost 3 or 5. Maybe all their exertions in Europe, and they're struggling to score goals.
Yeah.
They've the lowest scorers, and they've scored 8 goals all season in 12 games. So I think there's going to be if they can't score, then they're not going to win. So whereas Norrköping, on the other hand, in their game, there's like 2 or 3 goals every game. They've scored 20 and led in 23. So I think they could cancel each other out. I can see Norrköping score, and that seems to be Djurgården's problem.
Yeah, I agree with the goal side of it, Steve. The only thing is, Djurgården's put all their eggs into the Europa Conference League. So they've obviously, had a break, couple of weeks off now. They'll come back fired up. They're in a terrible position in the league. They know if they want more European glory, they're going to have to get their act together, and that's what I think will happen. I think they'll win. I took 28-10 Djurgårdens to win and both teams to score. Steve said Norrköping score every week, but I've got to fancy Djurgårdens, nice and fresh. I think they'll be too good. And the other game on Monday night is league leaders and Mjölby against Sweden's most famous side, Malmö. This should be a good game, Steve.
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, I think Mjölby are surprising everybody at how well they've done. and they've been winning games quite comfortably, unbeaten in their last 5. Only lost 1 all season. I mean, obviously Malmo are the biggest team historically in Sweden, but they're not having it their own way. And I fancy Mjällby. I think those are decent odds for a team at the top of the table.
Yeah, I think to be goals Monday night. Malmo have got to go for it. Both sides fortunately play on grass, so I like that advantage in the goals market. But you just never know with Malmo, Steve. And there's been 1 or 2 sales. I know the Norwegian and Swedish leagues have lost a few players. So until I've updated the ranks, I'll be having a bet. But I definitely think there'll be goals in that particular clash. Steve, pressure time again. I need your best bet and value bet, please.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to go as my best bet. I'm going to go Elfsborg.
Yeah.
I think that, against a team who haven't won all season, you'd fancy them. And again, we just spoke about, I think, Mjällby. I think those are decent odds for a team. Only 1 defeat on top of the table. If they weren't playing Malmo, I think they probably would find themselves odds on. Yeah.
Steve, I totally agree with Elfsborg. I do make them even money. Can't believe they're that price. And I'm chancing Vancouver. I know they're a decent side. Just think with Los Angeles having played in this World Club, they'll be jaded. They've had a full go. They draw last night this morning against Boca Juniors 1-1. Obviously, give them a bit of confidence, but they're going to have to rotate. And especially in the American League, where seeding, if you finish 3rd or 4th, does it really mean that much? So I think they'll give their players a week off and come back fired up. But I'm chancing Vancouver at 23-10. Steve, thanks as always. Enjoy the World Club. We'll speak over the weekend.
We will. Cheers, Budge.
All right, Steve. Our UK correspondent, Stevie Bram. On to our soccer exotics for the weekend, and it is Saturday's pool. Even the 13 is on Saturday, and the first one up, I've gone the field in the GIF Sundsvall versus Östersund's game. I'm going for Trelleborg, win and draw at home against RK Otterwald. Going for Odd Ball Club, win and draw at home against Start. Branking Stabiek to beat Ranham. The field in the Osters versus Sirius match, and I'm chancing Viking FK to beat Rosenborg 2-1-6. On to our second soccer 6, which is the MLS one. I'm banking the New England Revolution to beat Colorado Rapids. New York Red Bulls win and draw at home against Minnesota United. The field in the Orlando City versus Cincinnati match. I'm banking Chicago Fire to beat Charlotte. Sporting Kansas City win and draw at home against Real Salt Lake. And the field in the Seattle Sounders Austin match 2-1-6. On to the soccer 10 for Saturday. I'm banking New England Revolution to beat Colorado. Going for New York Red Bulls, win and draw at home against Minnesota United. The field in the Orlando City versus Cincinnati clash. Nashville to avoid defeat at DC United, as well as another away side, Portland Timbers, win and draw in Toronto. Onto the second page, I'm banking the Chicago Fire to beat Charlotte. The field in the FC Dallas versus San Diego match. Houston Dynamo to be too good at home for St. Louis. Sporting Kansas City win and draw at home against Real Salt Lake. And going for Seattle Sounders to beat Austin 288. On to the soccer 13 for Saturday. I'm going Sirius, win and draw at Osters. Stockholm Internationale, win and draw at FC Orlando. 2 bankers, IF Karlstad to beat Gefle and Young Kopping Sodra to beat SC Trollhättan. Luginskiel, win and draw at home against Angel Homes. Going with Skövde, ARK to avoid defeat at BA Olympic. And Oskarshamns, win and draw at home against Eskilsmina. On to the second page, 2 bankers, Viking FK to win at Rosenborg and Lillestrøm to beat Sognal. Odds Ball Club win and draw at home against Start. Going for Stabiak to beat Ranham. Tampereen Eels to beat Haka. And going for FF Jaro win and draw against KTP in the Icelandic League 256. On to our budgies bets for the weekend, and starting off in the MLS, I'm going New England to beat Colorado and over 2.5 total goals. New York Red Bulls to beat Minnesota and Chicago to beat Charlotte 2,100 to 200. My team goal sides in the MLS, I'm going New England, Chicago, San Jose and Vancouver, all to score over 1.5 goals, 2,900 to 200. On to Sweden. I'm going Hammarby to win by more than 1 goal against Halmstad. Going for ARK Stockholm to beat IFK Gothenburg. Elfsborg to win at IFK Värnamo. And Djurgårdens to beat Norrköping, both teams to score 4,600 to 200. On to Norway, because their league's in full flight. I'm going over 2.5 goals, both teams to score no. So that's a 3-0, 4-0 game in the Bodo Glimt versus Salzburg game. I'm going for Bern to beat HamKam and over 2.5 goals in the Brand Sandefjord clash, 2,100 to 200. Our over 2.5 goals, both teams to score, yes. Games are all from the Scandinavian League. I'm going for Holgersen Christiansen, BK Häcken Gaze Gothenburg, Fredrikstad Tromsø and Mjolby against Malmo, 3,800 to 200. Now, Collis King 6 or Nixa. I'm going for New England to beat Colorado, Chicago to beat Charlotte, Hammarby to beat Halmstad, Elfsborg to beat IFK Värnamo, Bodo Glimt to beat Sarpsborg, and Bern to beat HamKam, 3,800 to 200. Guys, thanks for watching, and please remember to stay on side.